I'm Katie Adauda with Crosspoint Church, and this is our marriage ministry, marriage stories that we like. We enjoy doing on Friday nights, and this is where we get to share wisdom with someone who's been married a certain amount of years, and we'll get into that later. But this is just something that we enjoy doing. We like hearing stories, for one, just like everyone loves hearing stories. And we need to glean some, like I said, to glean some wisdom off of other people besides us, because we don't know everything. So this is why we talk to other people, because that's just the way it's meant to be. So here we are. We're live with.
We're here with Roland and Irene King. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, so Roland and Irene have been married a miraculous 53 plus years. Absolutely amazing. So we're first going to ask them to show a picture of their wedding day. So if you will show us what 53 plus. That's not the picture they showed us a few minutes ago. You guys are too funny.
I got the wrong picture. Sorry.
Right.
Okay, so what were your thoughts in that moment when that picture was being taken?
Help.
Help.
Well, I think the nervousness was over just a bit at that point, because it was immediately after the.
Yeah.
A little bit of relief there, Pastor, because it was just finished the ceremony. So.
Was that in church?
Yes.
Or where was that? Yeah. Do you remember the name of the church?
Open
yes.
Door Baptist Church.
Oh yes, that's where we started out as new believers and newly married. Mm-hmm.
So it was free then. So your pastor didn't charge anything.
I think it's $5. The pastor said, "I'll have 5 words. It'll be take him, take her, and took."
Oh my goodness.
No, never mind.
Oh my gosh. Well, as a reminder for everybody that's watching this evening, if you have any questions for Roland and Irene as we go along, I'm going to try to be following along on my phone. So go ahead and put them in the comment sections, and then either as we're going or at the end, we'd be happy to ask them the questions that you have pressing on your mind. Like, was that really you guys in those clown costumes? That's my first question. And how long ago was that, guys?
Probably.
Roland's played a clown. Roly Poly was his clown name.
Oh.
And he performed at lots of various functions between like 93 and 95 or something like that. Somewhere in there, 96.
Almost 2000 did some various.
He quit clowning when we moved to Temecula, sadly, though.
That's what you think.
I'm sure you have some good story. All right, everybody, when you see Roland next time in person, you need to ask him some of his clown stories. Yeah. I can imagine.
Or a joke. People always want a joke.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How many balloon animals can you make under a minute? You know, kind of a thing.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, so we get started?
We should get started.
All
yeah.
Right. So the first question we always ask every couple that we meet is, how did you meet?
Well, I can go ahead with that. That would have been when, not how. I guess 1965. That's more when than how. But we met on a double date. It was a blind date, I should say. Irene's close friend and a coworker that I had kept sort of bugging us about that, and I thought, okay, because blind dates don't always. It was not particularly exciting to me doing so, but we ended up doubling with them. Went on a picnic, a Sunday afternoon, went on a picnic to a lake I love really well. So I thought, well, we'll do that. And it worked out pretty well. Yeah, and I had my brand new Grand Prix. I just bought one. I was living for me in those days. I told my car to, don't get my car dirty, type of thing. But anyway, nonetheless, no, it worked out pretty well. We did fine, and there was no great moves or anything going on in those at that particular time, I should say. Anyway, that's how it started out.
a little backstory on that blind date, double date thing.
Yeah.
Our friends had just gotten married a couple of days before, kind of secretly, and hadn't been alone too much since they got married. So as soon as we were through eating, they kind of indicated that we should maybe go for a walk or see the other side of the lake or something, so they could have a little time together. And so even though it was a double date, we spent probably more than half of the time on a single date by ourselves around the lake.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't have a
Was
lot of
that-
time, did we, at that time? Didn't know what to say exactly. So
Had either of you ever been on a blind date before that?
Not
no,
me.
no, not that I know.
No,
I was
okay.
not anticipating it too much at all, of course.
Yeah, so it was a good experience with blind dates then, right? Would you recommend it for others?
Well, if it had the outcome like ours, I would. Yeah.
If you really
Right.
trust people that are setting you up, maybe so.
Okay, all right, and inquiring minds want to know, Roland, what was the color of that car that was your first love?
Yeah, it was an aquamarine colored car.
Oh, kind of a teal color?
A light, little lighter
Pretty-
than teal, but
Pretty
yeah.
close to that, yeah.
Okay, all right, and do we have pictures of that car anywhere?
Someplace.
Somewhere? All right, we'll have to see. Yeah, you're like, I didn't know I was supposed to bring car pictures. It was just pictures.
We have now switched this interview to
Yes.
cars. We're going to talk about the cars
Antique
Oh my
car.
goodness. Okay, so we've got it set up, the blind date. It's going pretty well. I'm assuming there's dates after that. So the next question is, when, for each of you, did you know that you were in love?
I might go ahead with that again because you'll have some comments to make. Another thing we did that day, which doesn't exactly tell, but it was progressive. That was probably leading up to when we had a second date, because Irene had tickets, by the way, just so happened to have tickets for a riverboat cruise that evening. So we
had our second date on the same day as our first date.
so
Okay.
we took advantage of that as well, of course. Then, yeah. Anyway, and so that went well. And then I think that was 5 days later. We went to a movie. We enjoyed movies both anyway. And dates kept getting closer together as time went on, progressed. And probably a few weeks later, I began to really think, what in the world's wrong with this? Because that was not what I was looking for. That was the last thing in my life. I'd been frequenting nightclubs and you name it. That was part of my life. And I didn't. But anyway, who would know that God was already beginning to speak to me and said, you got to think. And anyway, he can begin with a romantic life, I suppose, can't he? And anyway, I really began to think, and I thought, yeah, I just knew in my heart. Sometimes you just know that you know. I don't know how to. It was probably several weeks later,
now.
month or
Oh,
two.
several weeks. Okay, so that's what was going to be my follow-up question: is how long? It didn't take too long for Roland to be smitten, Irene.
No, not too long.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I was pretty well into this relationship too early on, although not real convinced that it was love right that early. But sometime we were not, either one of us, following Christ at that point in our lives when we met. But and that was October when we met. So probably about the first of the year, he started going to church with his parents to Open Door Baptist Church. And he accepted the Lord and his life started to change. And so I was Catholic and, very Catholic, I guess, in some ways. But I thought, well, this isn't going to make a whole lot of difference. We can make it work. He can go to his church. I can go to my church.
Well, I thought the same thing. I thought this would work out, and I know my parents thought,
But he started witnessing to me on our dates, and he started playing Christian music on the radio in the car and singing hymns. And I was starting to get a little annoyed at at this proselytizing that I felt like was going on. So we broke up for a little while.
Wow.
It was for 3 whole days.
I'll have to confess that was very hard.
It was a long 3 days. And during that time, I was miserable, and his mom later told me that he was miserable too. But anyway, so I have a long testimony story about what happens next, and I
For another.
won't get into all those details. But God revealed to me that, you know, we should be together. And so we got back together, and long story short, I did leave the Catholic Church, and I started going to Open Door Baptist Church too. And we were both became believers, and shortly before we were married. So that was just a confirmation that it was truly love, because God confirmed it for me.
Aw, very neat.
So sweet. All right, so we got the easy questions out of the way. The next question is, what has been the easiest and challenging element of staying married?
Well, I'll start with this one, because we were new Christians, and because we were really committed to following the Lord, we went into our marriage firmly convinced that it was going to work, that God was in it, and that God would see us through, and divorce was never going to be an option. And that was just our mindset, and that thinking, that way of thinking, just made it easy to say, you know, this is going to work, and no matter what happens, God's going to get us through it. So there really was never any true option about not staying married.
Well, we both probably had a very good biblical background on that, whether believers or not. I mean, that's very Old Testament, isn't it? So, and not only that, about divorce, we really didn't even think, I didn't even think about how negative, it didn't even enter my mind. I guess that we would ever even, because you're that much in love, you don't even think about, I mean, there's people out designing prenuptials now and everything else they do to think, if that's, have to get all serious here all the time, but if that's an issue, maybe they should rethink what they're, you know, why would you want to do such a, yeah, I'm just concurring with what you're saying. I believe it was never even an issue, and I never even thought about the negativity of that entered my mind at all, hardly, because we won't be doing that. So
Right.
anyhow, that's probably where we are, and pretty much I hope together on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so so the question was, what was the easiest and most challenging element? So easiest was the divorce isn't even on the plate, right? That was okay. All right. So kind of going with maybe what was challenging, and then how have the challenges strengthened your marriage?
Well, the challenges, you know, every marriage is different, and every marriage has communication problems and child problems and financial problems and all those things. And we'd had those. Probably the early years when our children were little, we had 4 children, and they were spaced fairly close together. So they were real young all at one time, and they were teenagers all at one time.
For 2 years.
So those times of raising children, I think, were the most challenging, just dealing with kid issues and trying to stay sane.
Some more cooperative than the others.
Well, you guys were outnumbered. You were outnumbered. So the oldest and the youngest. So when the newborn was what came, how old was the oldest?
7.
Let's see. So Sam would have been 2, and Rebecca was 3.5, and Joel was 5.5. So 5.5.
Yeah,
the oldest was
yeah.
5.5. The youngest was, and the youngest was 4.
Okay.
Yeah, not even 6, was he? That's right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a train that just keeps going, right?
Well, they've done fairly well. So
Yeah,
even
our
though
My kids have turned out okay.
Well, there you go. And you guys are looking pretty good for around 4.
For dealing with.
Oh my goodness.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
I suppose that, and maybe financial, just to throw a quick one in there, probably some
Yeah, of course.
financial struggles that everybody goes through with, which is really a lot of contention in many marriages.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we really prayed a lot about that. I mean, God taught us to pray early on, pray about it, and And of course, communication is another one, which we've really attempted to work at that
Right.
incredibly over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and strengthening our marriage, a prayer life has been a real key. When we were going, anytime we went through anything difficult or challenging, praying with each other and for each other, and with trusted friends who come alongside.
Yeah. It makes, yeah, it's.
It makes a world of difference.
Well, supposed to do that all the time, I suppose, aren't we? But not that we're doing it, but anyway, we're where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same themes for every marriage, right? You hear the key things that you need to be vigilant with and you need to work on, but I think that we just get lazy, right? We just assume that marriage should be easy and these things don't need a lot of work, right? We don't
Yeah, it's
want
like,
to go on autopilot, but
right,
no.
right. Yeah, we're prone to wonder.
Well, the next question was, what's a significant spiritual impact that created a positive change in your marriage? And you mentioned praying together, definitely. Was there anything else besides that? Something that made a significant spiritual
Significant
impact?
change?
Yeah.
Well, we had very good, stable background upbringing, even though maybe it wasn't Christian per se, it wasn't like that, but we had a very good home upbringing. I don't know, easy way to say that. And that really helped to stabilize, which was, I suppose, before the fact, wasn't it? Before we came to faith, that really made a lot of difference. And I suppose at this point where we can say we had a lot of prayer support from others as well, encouragement, counseling, you name it. That was, I suppose it was impacted us after the fact, after we came to faith, people that really helped us. Is this what we want to say about the seminar? Maybe.
Sure. Seminars are all good.
Yeah, we
Okay.
had a pastor that was at Open Door Baptist that was really heavy on that sort of thing, and he had us carry this big syllabus thick somewhere in there twice a year. We had like a 2 or 3 day. Many times, of course, it was on marriage. It was you got to. In those days back there, I know Dylan really had another thought on it, but we lived in a farm country. Kansas, Missouri says you have to cultivate the marriage. You have to really work on that. It won't just happen. If God's in it, it's going to have to. I thought, oh boy, they're serious. We were with a lot of serious Christians.
No, I think that's a blessing though, right?
Never mind that. They should be.
Right.
Christians should be. I don't want
Yeah,
to.
well, yeah, I'm sure they're very concerned. You're just starting out in your marriage. You're very young Christians, very young in your marriage, so they wanted to look out for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was good he did that. Yeah, he had us great. Dick Meyer, after he retired, went to work with his brother Paul Meyer at the Meyer Men's Clinic. Probably heard of that in Texas. So, boy, he was really spot on with a lot of. And I attribute a lot of that. He's just a man, and he wouldn't want credit for that. But it was God's doing and working and doing and drawing us toward himself and each other, of course, through that. Unless you had any other.
Well, while they had all their men's retreats and men's seminars, I had 2 women that very godly senior ladies that took me under their wing for personal mentoring. And they really helped me a lot with a lot of biblical principles and guidelines for a good wife, like Proverbs 31 wife, on those kind of things. And I think the most important thing I learned from them, and it's maybe it comes in later, but I'm going to say it now because it really made the most impact, I think, in my life was the principle that you don't put your husband down in any kind of a public forum, whether you're with your girlfriends on a girls' date or girls' night out, or well, we didn't have Facebook in those days, but any kind of public forum, you'd never put your husband down. I mean, he has faults. Everybody knows he's going to have faults, but you just don't air them. You don't talk negatively about your husband. You don't put him down in any way. And that, because if you do, he's going to hear about it some way or another. He's going to hear about it, and then he's going to not trust you. And that's going to cause a big rift. So like my mama taught me, say something nice. And you can always find something good to say.
Well, and I think too, not even just friends, but some of the the people in my life that what I've heard has been an issue is they go and tell mom.
Mhm.
Mom obviously is then on the side of her daughter and now no longer likes hubby. And then when everything's reconciled, mom hasn't right? Mom's still like, well, no, he treated you bad, right? So kind of goes along with that. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful. Well, thank you. No, words of wisdom. We love it. We love it. Okay, next question. What are 2 or 3 things of the most that you think? Oh, sorry, I'm just blowing this question. I don't think it's worded right. What are 2 or 3 really critical things that you wish you had known when you got married? So either bits of advice or just things that you're like, I didn't know it was going to be like that.
Yeah, I'll start with that one. I grew up in a pretty stable and happy home. My parents loved each other and we never questioned that. They never fought out loud or raised their voices with each other. And I had 6 siblings. And so, you know, there were always people around. And so I expected that our family life would be like home. And so the thing I needed to learn was that I had to adjust my expectations, because no 2 households are exactly the same, even from in the same family clan type environment. So I needed to learn to adjust my expectations about what our family life was going to be. And then another thing that I didn't know much about, and I should have, because my dad was a master at it, was budgeting. He kept track of every penny and he knew exactly how they were going to pay every single thing that came upon their plate. But I didn't really care much or know much about handling finances. So I should have known that that was more important than not.
Probably that we would have, I'd add a little bit of that, kind of goes along with it. We would have and should have understood each other more. I can speak for me, at least have understanding. Maybe whether we understood or not, it's a little difference. I think there's quite a difference there. And of course, everyone probably realizes that. And maybe we don't agree, maybe we do agree, but to have understanding, to be patient with one another and to really listen, pay attention to what's going on. Probably would have done a lot more in that. Would have been a lot easier. Had a bit of a temper early on. God's helped me with that a lot. So anyway, patience, understanding, and try to be understanding, whether we necessarily agree. But anyway, I'm kind of repeating myself, I suppose, right now, which I tend to do. But I think that's lesson learned there. Good for anyone to. I don't know of anything else. Maybe sensitivity, I guess, what comes in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more we can let other people know, right? In some ways, it's still everybody's own individual journey, right? But yeah, just being able to be there and share the wisdom. So that takes us. We had a few more questions for them originally. And then Irene shared with me an amazing thing that they shared with people in their lives on their 50th wedding anniversary. So I thought we would wrap up this evening with them sharing their top 10 tips with us. They have been gracious enough to say that if you would like a copy of this, I am able to share it with you. So if you would like a copy of it at any point, whether you're watching this live or later on, in the comment section, just say, I like the top 10, and then give me your email address if I don't already have it, and I will shoot you over this list. So take it away, guys.
Okay, well, we're going to start with number 10. Like they do on television, you go down to number 1. So we'll start with number 10. And this one's for me. It says, look for a guy who's been a Boy Scout and who lives the Scout law, to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
I don't know if there's that many Boy Scouts out there to go around or not. But nonetheless, that's anyway, mine was, look for a girl who's been taught well by her mother to say something nice. I think you alluded to this, or don't say anything at all. So
Number 8, be understanding, even if you can't understand. I think he said that too. No woman truly understands a man and vice versa.
maybe not in entirety, but that's, okay, 7 is each one should prefer the other over themselves.
Number 6, brag on your husband on Facebook. Be an encourager.
And that was 6. 5, shout your wife's praises to anyone who will listen.
Number 4, pray for and with your spouse every day.
3 is prioritize date night, even if you can't afford it. We did this. Go park by the airport and watch airplanes take off.
It's just being together, right,
Yeah,
guys?
we're together.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Number 2, laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Easy when you have a clown.
Yeah.
No matter what, a sense of humor is essential. And you can always rent Abbott and Costello or Laurel and Hardy or somebody else if you need some help laughing.
Folks today still know who those are. Okay,
Well,
the
they
number
can
1.
Google it. They can Google and find out.
Number 1. Okay, go into marriage without any escape option. So the vows don't have an expiration date,
Yeah,
at least not in this lifetime. So,
that's right.
So there you have it.
There you go, guys. All right,
Thank
the
you.
top 10 words of wisdom from Roland and Irene King, married almost 54 years. Well, guys, we thank you so much for taking some time out this evening to answer our questions, to share a little bit about your marriage story with all of us. So thank you so very much for coming out tonight.
It's
Well,
been a privilege.
yes, and indeed, thank you guys too, and we bless your ministry with too.
It's been fun and you didn't make me cry.
There you go.
Almost, but not quite.
So we're so close.
All right, well, that ends our evening this evening then. Thank you so much, everybody that was watching, and the Kings. Until next time.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless.